Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm used to speaking to people in camouflage, so this is a very, nice surprise. But, almost 30 years ago, or maybe a little over 30 years ago, there was a lovely couple who took a hunting trip in a different state, and the lady, being the inquisitive young lady that she was and still is, picked up a local newspaper and was reading to her husband as he drove, and read about an organization that was similar to what we do. And she looks at her husband and she said, "Richard, we live in sportsman's paradise. We have got to bring Hunters for the Hungry to Louisiana." And he agreed. And so that was 30 years ago. And they came back and started filling out the paperwork and getting all the necessary information and documents filed. And that's how this organization began, just from the passion and love of Louisiana from these two individuals. And a few years ago, unfortunately, Mr. Richard got sick, and so he pegged one of his Kappa Sig fraternity brothers and said, "You're an outdoorsman. You're going to help me run this organization when I'm gone." And so Chip Sondry is our board president. So Miss Judy Campbell, who is our chairman of our board, founder of Hunters for the Hungry Louisiana, and Chip Sondry, welcome. Thank you for being here. So our mission is simple. We just encourage outdoorsmen to utilize the resources that we have in our great state of Louisiana, but donate some of that to the people that are, in need. So we have a few programs. We found over the years that the easier we make it for people to donate, the more they're going to donate. So we have a few programs that we have come up with that we continue to expand and that we use to get people to donate to our organization. So according to Feeding Louisiana, roughly 1 in 5 of our fellow Louisianians experience food insecurity. If you think about that number, that's a lot. We're very, very high. Louisiana, really struggles with food insecurity. So we provide lean protein. Now, I want you to understand how rare that is, right? So food banks can do a great job in schools and at grocery stores of collecting canned goods and dry goods, but we're the only organization of its kind that actually collect the protein. And if you really think about it, protein is the most expensive part of every meal, and it's certainly, for most people, the most important part of every meal. So we are really doing a service that nobody else in the state has been able to do. So our Clean Out Your Freezer Day. So Scott mentioned just this year we had it in this past August, and we collected over 22,000 pounds of protein. So everybody imagine a 1 pound of ground meat that you would buy in the grocery store. So 22,000 pounds is a lot of meat. What we do is we set up volunteers across the entire state, and it's typically one day, and it's a Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4 p.m., across the entire state. My phone never stops ringing, but it's fantastic. And we have volunteers at all these 30 locations, and you literally drive up with the protein that you have in your freezer. A lot of people that are big hunters or fishermen, they stock their freezers with things that they think that they're going to eat. No way, I'm not going to eat all of this. Well, then it's about to become hunting season again, and their wives are saying, "Hey, where are you going to put this deer that you want to go hunt?" So, you clean out your freezer, you donate it all, you drive up, you drop it off to our volunteers at the location. So we work with all 5 major food banks throughout Louisiana. So there's one in Shreveport, Monroe, Central Louisiana, and Alexandria. Obviously, Baton Rouge Food Bank is a huge partner of ours, and then Second Harvest, which covers Acadiana and the New Orleans area. So people that have anything that's kind of, left over, what we say, obviously it has to be labeled and dated. The food bank needs to know what's in it. Because sometimes you can about imagine we get some things that may be a little outdated. I'm sure if we all dug deep in our freezers, you may have a hard time figuring out what 1 or 2 things may be. But so as long as it's properly labeled and dated, then the food bank will take it. And again, it's just a great way for people to, take what they they enjoy, they had it processed, they paid for it already, but then they're just really not going to use it. So it's a great way for them to give back to the community. A lot of these drop-off locations are in rural areas, so each food bank services over 100 different agencies, a lot of kitchens and soup kitchens and shelters and hope houses and that sort of thing. So, for instance, in Marksville, where obviously I'm from, there's a Hope House, and it's an addiction center, and we do a Clean Out Your Freezer Day location there, and we may only get 200 pounds of meat, but for that one little agency, that's a huge part of their budget. I mean, they couldn't be more thankful for, the protein that we give them. So that's our Clean Out Your Freezer Day. We do it once a year, and right before hunting season starts. Now, we do some special pickups. We have companies that we partner with. For instance, Cajun Industries is a great partner of ours. They're a big supporter, and every year in December before their holiday party, we go and their employees can bring some meat, and we have St. Vincent de Paul come and pick it up. So they kind of do their own little Clean Out Your Freezer Day because they just have a lot of big hunters and fishermen that work for their company. So we do have those opportunities. The other thing that we do is our freshly harvested game and fish program. So throughout the state of Louisiana, and this is kind of ever-changing interactive map, but we have over 60 processors that partner with us to where if you harvest a deer while you're out and doing your thing, while you're hunting, and you want to donate it, you can drop it off directly to one of our partner processors. It costs you nothing. We pay all the processing fees. The processors take the deer, they grind it up into ground meat because that's what the food bank can do the most with. And then I become kind of a switchboard throughout hunting season. And when a processor says, okay, my freezer's full, I'm ready for you to send the food bank truck, I give them a call, the truck goes over and picks it up. So again, a lot of times the processors like to keep it in their individual communities. So they'll say, hey, we have a church that's located right down the way that serves hot meals on Sundays. Can we donate to them? And they're an agency of the food bank. So we keep a lot of the meat directly in the community that the hunters are donating in, which a lot of people obviously appreciate. So we also have, through Venice Marina, we are able to accept fish. So a lot of these big fishing tournaments that happen down there, especially the offshore fishing tournaments, some of those, they're meat hauls, right? So the guys go out and or girls, and they catch a lot of fish, and then they come in and they don't want to either clean it, or it was for a tournament and they weighed it and then they don't want it, so then they donate it. Venice Marina is unfortunately right now the only marina that we have that has a processing facility on site that can clean the fish and package them according to how the food bank needs them, but they're producing thousands and thousands of pounds of fish for us right now, and it is just an incredible partnership that we are thrilled to continue to do. So we also just recently added feral hogs to our freshly harvested game program. So all of y'all, I'm sure, have heard that feral hogs is a big thing in Louisiana right now, obviously. They are calculating now over 1 million of them. We had to go through some hoops, but we got legislation passed a few years ago where we can now accept feral hogs. Now, not all of our processors will accept them. It obviously depends on their facility and their staff and how they're set up. But on our website, they're all listed out of which ones accept them or not. So this has been great. I mean, it's been very well received by hunters, by landowners that want to get these nuisance animals off of their land, but they don't have anything to do with them. They're bringing them to our processors. Our processors are processing them down into ground meat, and then the food banks are taking them. We have been able to provide a lot of protein from these animals. So, I mean, yeah, LSU Ag Center says $91 million, and they just continue to multiply. And so there's obviously a lot of things going on to try to slow down the growth of these feral hogs, but for now we're just trying to turn them into something good and feed the hungry while we can. So we had a processor up in North Louisiana who decided to do a hogapalooza where he had teams and you could bring in different amounts of hogs for over a 2-month period, and the team with the most weight at the end won $5,000, and he donated all this, and we ended up being able to provide over 6,700 pounds of ground meat, and that's just one processor. So a lot of things like that are happening. An organization called Troops in Tusk, which they take veterans out and they take them hunting. They've reached out to us. They do a lot with us now. And so we're expanding on little things like that are just kind of helping to spread awareness and get the word out that we're doing this great work. So as you'll see, these are kind of just the different pounds of ground protein that we are providing in the different regions. So yeah, Clean Out Your Freezer Day is actually over 22,000 pounds. And then, hogs and deer, they're kind of neck and neck right now, but it won't be long before that hog number really overtakes the deer number, clearly, because there's not a specific season that you can hunt them. So, but last year, that 38,000 pounds, that was over 1,000 deer that were donated. So a lot of people, and I want to just go ahead and point this out, there's a lot of people that say, only harvest or bring in the boat, only keep what you're going to eat. And I get that, I do. But if you think about it this way as well, so there's a lot of people, especially our hunters, that spend a lot of time and a lot of money on preparing, your food plots and your camps. And God forbid the price of camo these days, and all these things. And you may harvest a deer or two, and then you may feed your friends and you feed your family and you fill your freezer, and then it's only a month into the season. Well, you want to keep hunting the whole time because you've been waiting all year for this to happen. So now you can continue hunting. It's no cost to you. You can drop your deer off at one of our processors, and we'll take it from there. So, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as well. And, another thing is there's a lot. We work closely with Wildlife and Fisheries, with their enforcement agents, and with their deer management program. A lot of these larger hunting clubs, these landowners, they really need to take a certain amount of deer off of their land to keep their herd healthy. So, whenever that happens, whenever their biologists go in and they make recommendations on how many deer they should take off the land, and, sometimes they'll call us and say, okay, we're ready to, to give you some, where can we donate it, and that sort of thing. So in that regard, our program is very helpful because, processing can be very expensive. Processing costs continue to rise just like everything else that is happening across the country. So, there's a few ways, of course, I really want you to help. Obviously, partnering with us, that kind of goes unsaid. Would love to have your company sponsor us. We're a nonprofit, so while we do have some money that we have gotten allocated from the state for processing, that, like I said, processing costs are going up, so we can always use some extra help there. Whenever you buy your hunting or fishing license through the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, you have the option to check yes and donate $1, $2, $5, $10. Would appreciate that. That money is earmarked specifically for processing fees as well. So that is a huge help to our very small budget. So whenever we get those donations, it's fantastic. And then of course, keeping up with us. If you go to our website, there's a sign up button, and we don't send a lot of emails, maybe once a month, just a newsletter, kind of letting you know what's going on. So if you want to kind of keep up with our info, then that's a great way to do it. But honestly, what I would really like for y'all to do, get your kids involved. Teach them. Get them outdoors. There's so many kids now that don't hunt, they don't fish. The hunting and fishing license numbers are decreasing. Teach them about giving back. Judy loves the fact that when I took my daughter fishing in a Swollfest tournament, she caught a football of a redfish, and she won the tournament, and I was so fired up. But she got the fish in the boat, and she turned to me, and the first thing she said is, Mom, this redfish is going to feed so many people when I donate it to Hunters for the Hungry. And, it's just educating them and getting them out there. And, we have a board member who can't wait to get his dad out to plant food plots every year because he knows, those deer are going to go to feed a lot of people in our community. So, your kids, your grandkids, take them fishing, take them hunting. I mean, if you're not an outdoorsman, I get it. Well, I don't get it. If you're not an I don't get it. If you're not an outdoorsman, you're really missing like a lot of great things that we have going on in this state and beautiful scenery. So you really should try it. But if not, then go to the Baton Rouge Food Bank. Take your kids to the family night at Baton Rouge Food Bank, and they crank up the music, and you're sorting boxes and you're helping, but just teaching them to give back. God forbid, go volunteer at St. Vincent de Paul and serve a hot lunch. Talk about change your life. So that's what those are the ways I really want you to help, is really understand what we're doing because of Judy. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
We're reading about the feral hogs. I see people are using some kind of a poison bait thing to kill them.
Yes, sir.
If the hog, how do you, I assume that wouldn't be good to process that meat?
Fantastic question. And I just happen to be married to a guy who works at the LSU Ag Center, so I know the answer to it. Because I asked him the same question. I said, your bait that you're, inventing to kill these hogs is going to put my hog program out of business. And he started laughing and he said, no, if the hogs eat the bait, then basically their insides turn blue. So they are dyed. So then obviously a processor would know that they cannot process those animals. But great question. I'm glad I asked my husband that question. I wouldn't have known.
What about fowl?
We do. So I asked the lady at St. Vincent de Paul, who's the kitchen manager, I said, is there anything you won't take? And she said, no, we want it all. So we have people that donate birds, they donate squirrel, they donate alligator. The warden at Angola asked me the other day, do you want raccoons? I said, well, I don't know. I'm going to have to get approval for that one. He said, I had about 30 of them on the golf course the other day. But yes, for sure, we get a lot of fowl that come in, and a lot of bird hunters, obviously, in the state. And even for our freezer day, one of the coolest parts is when somebody comes up and they have grocery bags, and they had just gone to Rouse's, and they're like, we just love your mission. We just think this is cool. I don't have anything in my freezer, but here, I went and bought some ham or chickens or, whatever, just because I want to be a part of what you're doing. That's really cool. Yes, sir.
Is there any concern about your meat infected with chronic wasting disease?
So, yeah, great question as well. So, CWD is a concern specifically in North Louisiana, is where most of the cases have been confirmed. Also, along with, it's kind of like saying brucellosis with the feral hogs. There's all kind of different concerns about that as well. There is no evidence in the entire country, and so Hunters for the Hungry Louisiana is its own entity, but there are similar programs in over 32 states that do the same thing. They might not be called Hunters for the Hungry, but 32 different states have this program. And there is no evidence that CWD has ever harmed a human being, gotten anybody sick, or any of that kind of stuff. So for now, what we're doing is just being careful. Our processors are very educated. They work with wildlife and fisheries very closely on detecting it. Obviously, there's testing that's done. From the individual deer, they take part of its brainstem, they send it down to Baton Rouge, they get it tested. So we are very well aware of what's going on and kind of keeping our eye on it. For now, we're just continuing to process the meat. And again, there's no evidence that it's ever gotten anybody sick. So we're just kind of going with that for now. Yes?
What kind of shape does I shoot a hog? Can I bring the hog in? Do I have to skin it first and gut it and do all that?
Great question. So every processor is different. So a lot of our processors in North Louisiana will take them just straight out of the field. There's some, I feel like our processors around here, either their facilities aren't as large or maybe their staffing isn't as great, but they require them to be field dressed. So we just recommend that you go to our website and call the processor and kind of ask them, say, hey, I have something for Hunters for the Hungry. You just want to make sure I bring it in correctly. Yeah.
Can you name a few of the processors around here that you guys partner with?
Yeah, so Mike Tremonti at Tremonti's Meat Market is our major one in Baton Rouge. There's a couple on in the West Bank, Roushers and Riverside, that are great for us. I mean, there's some in French Settlement, Denham Springs, Livingston. So we're spread out, pretty good around here for as far as just East Baton Rouge Parish. Tremonti's is probably our biggest one. We're always looking for new ones too. So if you have a camp somewhere that you pass by or a place that you like to bring your deer or hogs to get processed and they're not on our list, we're always looking for new processors to add. And we're very easy to work with. It's not a hard situation. We send them a packet and get them signed up, and we're very easy to go back and forth with, so. Hello.
Two questions.
Yeah.
Kind of same vein though. So you said, you kind of indicated that what you provide, at least as far as venison, is ground venison. So you take everything and then y'all just kind of grind it all up, and is that right, or do you provide? Like, give you a backstrap, is that going into grind, or is that?
No, it'll stay as a backstrap. We're just saying whenever, if a hunter brings in a deer and say we want to donate this to Hunters for the Hungry, the processor will just grind it up. Now for freezer day, whatever you give us, however it is.
And you said it's got to be dated and identified. What's the date?
1 year.
1 year?
Mm-hmm. Food bank because they have USDA requirements and that sort of thing. So food bank asks that it's 1 year. Mm-hmm. Basically, I mean, if you wouldn't feed it to a guest that's coming over to your house, maybe not try to get somebody else to eat it. It's a good general rule of thumb. Any other questions?
This is just more of a comment. Back to getting kids engaged in hunting. So I have 4 children, and what I've done almost their whole lives is enroll them with Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries lottery hunts.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been successful for a lot of those, and they do a fabulous job.
Absolutely.
Guiding the kids, even if you don't have hunting experience, they'll have a guide with you that puts you on it, and it's been a wonderful, program that LWDF does.
It is. They also have one that's for women. You know, if you're a woman and you're like, well, I want to get involved in the outdoors, but I have no idea how to do that. They have a program called Becoming an Outdoor Woman, and they teach you how to, bait a hook and back down a trailer and, all the things. So they can take you to Grand Isle. They'll take you in the woods. I mean, it's really great. And so I don't know what the age requirement is for that one, probably 18 or older, but under 18 for your kids. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of resources. Again, we're sportsman's paradise. Like, we have a lot of resources in the state that, maybe people just don't know about. But I'm happy to connect you with, if you need a fishing guide, if you want to take your grandkids or your kids fishing, then, I have a lot of friends that do that, or hunting, just ask. All my information is on the website, but just do it. Just get out there and enjoy it and see what we have. This is why we live here. Let's enjoy it. So, yes.
What if I hit a deer with my car?
You laugh. I get a lot of those questions. So a lot of times wildlife and fisheries agents will call me and say, well, we have one that was hit on the highway, and I mean, he's in pretty good shape. I'm right here. And so then they'll bring it to the processor. It just kind of depends. The processor will tell you if it's a little too mangled, or if they can actually get some meat out of it.
If you don't have refrigeration, what is the time period that you have to bring the dead deer to the processor?
Immediately. Yeah. You don't have much time. The sooner the better, for sure.
What about nutria?
Great question. A lot of people have asked about that. Again, that kind of falls into we'll kind of take anything. We don't have a lot of nutria processors per se that are, specifically for that. But yeah, if you have it professionally processed, then I'm telling you, the food banks will take it as long as it's processed properly. Yes, ma'am.
So thinking of the recipients of some of this that might not know how to use this food, do you partner as far as providing training or recipes, or how do you reach the people who are receiving?
Sure. So that's why we really get all of the meat ground up, because everybody can do so much with ground meat, Obviously, if you're thinking about someone like St. Vincent de Paul who's serving 400 hot meals a day, they can make chilies and, large pots of things with ground meat, all the soups and that sort of thing. But as far as, for clean out your freezer day, if we get things that they don't know, then the food banks work closely with their agencies in their area, and they have people that can kind of help them with that. So we provide the meat, and then the food bank has, a lot more employees and training and that sort of thing that they are able to offer them, for sure. So one of the funniest stories is whenever Mr. Richard Lipsey came one year to clean out his freezer day, and he donated a brisket, and one of our volunteers was standing there and watched him dump it in, and he said, "Hey, I gave you that for Christmas this special." He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't eat it."